You're now watching the Danny Mac Podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.
And welcome back to the Danny Mac Podcast, Bet Rivers Network. Glad you're with me today. So is Jim Miller, Mr. Bears preseason football again this year with Adam Amin. And it's good to have you on board, Jim. It was a successful preseason. You're a guy who wants to see players play. Did you get enough of Caleb Williams in those preseason games?
Yeah, I think so. I think he got enough of the snaps. 42 snaps. He got in the cross scrimmage against the Cincinnati Bengals. He's gotten pretty much every rep with the first team since he's walked in the Chicago Bears facility. So yeah, I feel pretty good. And I feel good where he's at mentally. Like his demeanor, it just tells you he's a confident player. His teammates are confident in him. So should be an exciting year.
He does carry himself with a lot of poise and I think enough of an FU attitude to let stuff just run off of him like water off a duck's back, as they say, because sooner or later hell will come to breakfast. He's going to have bad games and he's going to take criticism he's never taken before. What about his teammates around him? What did you like and what concerns you before they get to the Titans?
Well, I think for him, I think his teammates has really ingratiated themselves to him. You know, when you hear veterans like Montez Sweat and the glowing remarks that he said about how Caleb, like much like you mentioned, how he conducts himself, how he carries himself, and the veterans are impressed and they're commenting on it, that he's a guy that you can see that people want to follow. He can really take over the quote unquote room, and that's true of a huddle too, that I think he's got a good leadership skills, and I think the veterans like a Keenan Allen, like a DJ Moore, like Montez Sweat, and even Jaylon Johnson, who had doubts. Remember when they drafted him and he said, "Hey, don't be bringing that drama of Hollywood in here," and he's been anything but. Even Jaylon Johnson has now bought in and believes in this guy as a leader.
Yeah, JJ's backed off on that one. Man, as good as he is, he gets under my skin. I wish Jaylon Johnson, since you took it there, I'll stay with it or I'll forget it. His bitching about not being on the top 100 players list, dude, start catching the ball when it's thrown to you. And here's an idea, too. When you do catch it and take it to the house, celebrate with your teammates instead of mugging for the cameras. Enjoy those guys who helped put pressure on the quarterback. He gets on my nerves, and I hope he stops with some of that nonsense, but I don't suspect he will.
Well, hey, he got obviously one of the top corner contracts in the league, and it was so kind of cool. Like, I interviewed him before last season at training camp, and he just said point blank, he goes, "I've got to get more interceptions for all the things that you said." He goes, "I've had my hands on a lot of footballs, but I've got to finish." And then here last year, he gets 4 interceptions, and that's his career high, and hopefully that will continue for him. But he is one of the top corners in the league.
Yeah, who can forget that pick against the Raiders when Aiden O'Connell threw it? I think it was in the vicinity of Jacoby Myers, but I mean, what a gift. And then, that's not the one he took into the end zone in that game, but he still managed to run down to the end zone and mug again and do the show me the money mechanic, and he got it. All right, I've bitched enough. Old man yells at cloud. I'm entitled. I turned 63 this week, Jim, so I can do that. Let's get back to quarterbacks, because that's what everybody is stirring about, and I never thought I would arrive at this, and I admit it's Kool-Aid that comes from preseason football games and video from camp. I like all 4 guys they've got at quarterback. I was glad all 4 of them didn't wind up somewhere else yesterday. I was worried maybe they'd part with Rippon, or even the Reed kid who looks very poised. What can we take out of their successes that's meaningful?
Yeah, I think, I think the coach has a good background, I think, from Shane Waldron, and won his communications with other coaches around the league about, the young quarterbacks the Bears have. Tyson Bagent is an interesting guy. He's somewhat, here everybody's talking about this phenomenon of Brock Purdy, and Tyson Bagent has kind of had a similar path as Purdy, just not the opportunities that Purdy has had. But when you go in there as a rookie and you go 2-2, and he was sacked only 1 every 19 dropbacks, he's a very fast processor. And that's what I talked to Luke Getsy about. And I noticed in that last preseason or the preseason game, what was that, Cincy, where he threw the two touchdowns to Pettis, he was even faster. And it's because he was even faster in his processing because he's played a lot of football. Just like Purdy, I think Purdy had like 49 starts at Iowa State. And if you go look at Tyson Bagent at Shepherd, I think he had like 51 starts. I mean, this guy's the all-time leader in touchdowns of 159 touchdowns he's thrown. So he has played a lot of football. It's important to him, and he is serious as a heart attack. If I were a team around the league, a guy like Tyson Bagent is going to be ascending very, very quickly with the development you see where he's at right now.
I hope you're right, and I think you probably will be. I like a lot about the kid, and there was a guy I grew up watching. Kenny Anderson for a long time was the guy from Augustana, and then that stopped, and he just became a great quarterback, like Phil Simms when you were growing up.
Yeah.
He was Morehead State. What the hell is that? Yeah. But once you have that level of success, doesn't that small college tag immediately leave you?
Oh, yeah, it does. It doesn't matter. Once you get to the NFL and everybody realizes you can play, all that stuff goes away. Think of Steve McNair of Elkhorn State. Here you bring up Kenny Anderson. Kenny Anderson should be in the Hall of Fame. I think still to date he's got the best yards per completion per attempt of any quarterback. He's like 9.9. It's something ridiculous where he's at. But, yeah, I think none of that matters. There's a lot of guys that have come out of small schools that have done well. I mean, think of even Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he went to a community college prior to when he transferred up. So, and here, think of that draft. He went 24. Everybody thought he was going to go ahead of Alex Smith, and that didn't happen. Alex went number one, and Aaron dropped to 24. So it's crazy.
The buzz in Chicago is not just about quarterback play, most specifically Caleb Williams, but the receivers. And they looked good in the preseason as well. What should we expect from this group? What's too much of an expectation for this trio?
I would think 2 out of 3 should go over 1,000 yards receiving. All 3 in likelihood have that potential where they could have 3,000-yard receivers. They could have over 1,000-yard running back in DeAndre Swift and what he does out of the backfield as well, catching the ball. And Cole Kmet should be right at 800 yards. I mean, this has the ability to be a very potent offense. This could be the best starting trio of wideouts in the NFL. Probably last year you would have said it was T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Tyler Boyd. I like the trio up in Seattle. That's not bad with the Jackson Smith and Jigba, Tyler, and then, of course, DK Metcalf. That's a pretty good trio. But this trio in Chicago may be the best in the league.
Man, I never thought we'd arrive at that with a trio of quarterbacks who can zip it to them. But do they keep those quarterbacks vertical? Injuries to Ryan Bates, expected to be the starting center. It's not going to happen for him, the former Bill. And you can't count on Nate Davis. They've been learning that each week. What's Ryan Poles going to do before this thing shakes out against Tennessee? I have a feeling he's not going to sit on his hands during what should be an active period in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, definitely. If you can upgrade, of course, you upgrade. But I think that battle's been going on for quite some time. I don't know why they just put Coleman Shelton at center and just put Bates at right guard, because Davis at this point, for my liking, he hasn't been in there enough. He missed last year at the beginning of the year, missed basically all through OTAs, training camp, and the same thing has kind of happened this year. So I wouldn't feel too comfortable. I'd rather just put Ryan Bates there, a player they know well. He was with the Bears. He left to go to the Bills. Now he's back. They liked him that much. If you like him that much, then just put him at right guard.
The cuts on Tuesday left them with 10 offensive linemen still on the roster. And then, of course, there's the practice squad opportunities. Is 10 too many?
No, I don't think 10's too many. They're not a finished product by any means. You saw they worked that trade. Who was that? Cleveland for the D tackle. I think they picked up Williams. And they've addressed the areas that they need to address. They made the trade to get Darrell Taylor. They needed another person who could pass rush. And so they went out and did the best they could. They missed out on Judon. They did the next best thing, which was Taylor. So whether they talked to the Jets about Hassan Reddick, I doubt there's any movement there. So they've done what they've needed to do to shore up. But, yeah, the roster's still going to churn until week 3. Why? Because normally in week 2, you don't sign veterans in week 1 because then you got to guarantee their contract. So you got to wait till week 2, then you sign them. Then it's on a weekly basis.
Yeah, and then, of course, the Bears can save a few dollars. They like to do that. That's maybe why they fly a guy like Dan Quinn to Chicago and coach when they interviewed him a few years ago for the job Matt Eberflus got. Eberflus seems to be a different guy, and I don't know if the new PR staff has been talking to him, but even his presentation, the hip hairdo, and just kind of a bizarre transformation we've seen, and I don't think Hard Knocks did him any favors, but I wish I could feel more comfortable about the head man. Convince me he's going to be okay if you feel that way.
Yeah, I do. What I respect and love about Matt Eberflus and what he's done is the team plays hard. I think when you see a team that's probably not as talented as some of the opponents they're going against, you can tell by their effort, their toughness, their wherewithal. And I think under Matt Eberflus, guys have done that. There's a lot of times where, and you've been in seasons too, Danny Mac, where guys are pulling up their U-Haul the last month before the end of the year, and they've already checked out. And I don't think the players of the Bears have checked out on Matt Eberflus. They play with great effort, hustle, and toughness, which tells you that they're responding to his message.
They did make a bit of a comeback in the second half of last season. I don't know if it's unfair to qualify their progress, though. It's not inaccurate, but is it unfair to say, hey, yeah, great, you beat Taylor Heineke in Atlanta. You beat Josh Dobbs, who didn't have Justin Jefferson in the Vikings game. The only guy they beat who was worth a damn was Jared Goff.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with that. But I do think because the offense was compromising the team, let's just put it that way, because the defense did show great improvement. Offense made somewhat of a improvement as the year went along, but they just couldn't score points. There's probably 3 games in there that they just absolutely blew. The one that just blows my mind is the one you just mentioned, the Minnesota game and the Denver game. The Denver game, that should have been a win all day long and twice on Sunday with how the Bears blew that game, specifically at one position, the quarterback spot.
Yes.
So let's see if they can correct that.
Yeah, a former college teammate, too, I believe, was the one who took it away from Justin Fields. Yeah. Jonathan Cooper, I think. Oh, yeah. What a – man, all of these nightmares, but they're all going to go away so quickly when Caleb and company take over. I don't think it's too much to ask of Williams to, if he stays healthy, pass for more than 4,000 yards. And people are suggesting, oh, come on, man, let him grow into it. Bullshit. C.J. Stroud last year played 15 games and cleared 4,000. And Jordan Love in his first year as the starter threw 32 freaking touchdown passes. Yeah, the bar should be high because this kid came out with a hell of a lot more pub and expectation than any of these guys.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. This young man, he's been on the big stage, right? He's a Heisman Trophy winner. He's been at big-time programs. When he was with Lincoln Riley, even before he moved to USC with Lincoln, this guy has been well coached, and he's a pretty seasoned guy for being a rookie and how he's going to handle himself. But I think with what's around him and what his background is in football and how he's been coached and how he learns and what I've seen, 4,000 is realistic for him. You would hope, like you said, 3,500 minimum, 25, 26 touchdowns maybe, if you can get 15, 16 interceptions, be in that 2-to-1 range. But he's probably, with what's around him, He should go over 4,000 easily.
They don't play a divisional game, Jim, until I think their 10th of the season.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah, I do, because I think it'll allow the defense kind of has to carry the offense for a little bit, but probably right around week 9 with a rookie quarterback and, again, what's around him, the offense should come to life. And if the offense comes to life and guys are healthy and now you're going into your division games, we always say as a player, win your division. That's all you care about. That's your best path to the playoffs. And that's where they should be clicking, really hitting their stride offensively, I think, right around that time.
This coming February will be the 59th edition of the Super Bowl. The Detroit Lions never have been to one. Do they change that this year? Do you think the Lions are going to win the NFC?
I think they've got a great shot. I mean, if you were just to go through the NFC quarterbacks, Jared Goff, probably say him and Matthew Stafford, are probably the two headliners. I mean, he has played some really good football, especially at Ford Field. Their home record with Jared Goff and his numbers, that's where you got to kind of sting the Lions. But, yeah, they have the mentality from their coach that they could go the distance. They believe in themselves.
Yeah, and I think they have another early date. In fact, is it opening week where they have the Rams?
Yeah.
Which was a great playoff game. There were a bunch of them last year. That might have been the best of the bunch, especially with the two former quarterbacks playing each other. And it was a great game, and I'm expecting a lot from the Lions. I don't think the Vikings are viable in the North without J.J. McCarthy, and even with him, I don't know if they had enough. But 3 teams should be playoff teams this year. Is that too many to expect in one division?
Yeah, I would think so, because I think if you just look at Minnesota, it looked like J.J. McCarthy was going to take over Sam Darnold to be the starter, okay? Because we all know the history of Sam Darnold, and he's got a great opportunity here. I mean, he may be the Baker Mayfield of the NFL if he performs how everybody thinks he can perform. Again, got drafted high, New York Jets, not a lot around him. He's had his bumps along the way, and now here he is and gets this opportunity. But the reason why I say it looked like J.J. McCarthy was going to overtake him, because Sam Darnold in his history has turned over the football. I know coaches that have coached him. They're like, Jim, I want him to marry my daughter. He's a great guy. Everybody on the team loves the guy. He's a good team guy, but it's the turnovers at key moments in games that have really stunted his career. And so, let's see if he can shed that perception or that reality, because this is a great opportunity for him. But nothing in his history suggests he can get away from that.
Another 6 or 7 minutes with former Bears quarterback Jim Miller. You can catch him with Pat Kerwin on Moving the Chains, weekday afternoons on Sirius XM, Channel 88. I've got to renew my subscription. Time is running out on me. I'm going to be on the boat on some weekdays here coming up. The book is almost done, and time to get out and listen to this show a little more regularly. Would you have wanted a Hard Knocks crew around when you were a player, watching your every move, recording your every practice?
No, I wouldn't. It's weird because I've done, I don't know, going on 20 years of training camp tours now. I've seen, been at camps where Hard Knocks is there, and I've been caught on camera and have, been on the show as well. And you can see it. Some players, like some teams, the guys are playing to the camera, and a lot of that stuff doesn't really get shown to the viewers, but players are playing to the camera. Then the other guys just don't even want to be around it. They just want to go about their business. They don't want the distraction, which is kind of the camp that I'm in, because some of it's pretty fraudulent, because a lot of it, like I said, guys are playing to the camera, and it's not really reality.
Did you watch all 4? I think last night was the 4th, and we're recording this on Wednesday, the 28th. Have you seen all 4?
Yeah, I watched them, and actually a buddy of mine, we watched the last 2 episodes last night. So, yeah, I've watched them.
Look at that. As soon as it's fresh, you got to have some Bears. I just love to hear Liev Schreiber describe football in August. It lets me know that we're not that far away. As you traveled around to training camps this year and talked to all of your NFL sources, Is there a team out there nobody is talking about right now who you think could go deep into the playoffs?
Well, Houston is a legit team.
We're talking about Houston. Yeah, I've circled them already. I think they're going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think they've got a great shot. They've got good depth, what you need in the back end of your roster. And, of course, what factors in is how well that quarterback has played. I mean, that is an anomaly for how well C.J. Stroud has played last year. And if he even remotely repeats that, they've got a shot with their roster and how they're built. They're good in a lot of areas. Baltimore, of course, always looks good. But people are not talking a lot about the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're saying that offense is going to be struggling under Russell Wilson. The Steelers will be right in it at the end in that AFC North. I can guarantee you that.
If you're with the Steelers, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on their offensive coordinator. Was with Atlanta.
Yeah,
Arthur Smith. Do you find a way to get Justin Fields the football even when Russell Wilson is playing quarterback? Can you play him on occasion in the slot to get him in space?
Yeah, when I played there, we had Cordell Stewart. We created the slash role for him. So yeah, I think if people are legitimate about when they say, "Oh, we want to get our best 11 players on the field," Justin is one of your best players. And you can come up with a multiple packages to get him involved. Him rushing for over 1,000 yards, that's not a mirage. Justin Fields did do that, and I would like to think Arthur Smith is going to incorporate him in a lot of ways. They're much like the Bears in what you said. Think about their offense. Justin, this is his third offense in 4 years that he's had to learn. And obviously Russell Wilson's the veteran. He should get the offense up and running pretty quickly. You start infusing Justin Fields in there, and then all their division games start week 11. And if they're healthy and that offense catches fire, they're a dangerous team because their defense will be a top 5 defense. I'm more than confident in saying they'll be probably one of the best scoring defenses in the NFL for how much talent they have defensively.
I think they've got a great coach, too, and I don't think anybody disagrees with that. And he's the kind of guy who is strong-willed enough to handle 2 quarterbacks. Yeah. Not many of them can do that, I don't suspect.
Yeah, I mean, I call him the wordsmith. Mike Tomlin, I mean, that guy will pierce your heart as a player. He will get your attention on what you need to do, what we need to focus on with the entire goal of winning. And that's why he's never had a losing season. And people can say, "Oh, that's everybody says that." That is hard to do in the NFL. What this guy has done.
Jim, I always enjoy talking football with you. I wish we had a little bit more time, but let me conclude it with this: if you're plunking down today, regardless of the odds, let's say they're all even money. We don't have to look at odds on the conference favorites. Which 2 teams play in the Super Bowl?
Well, I think you gotta, it's probably still going to be between KC and Baltimore, I would think, on the AFC side, battling to who advances. And I would think at the NFC side, I think it will be Detroit and San Francisco in that championship game again. And we'll see if San Francisco can now advance.
Jim, good stuff. Thanks a bunch. Have a great last few days of the offseason and look forward to hearing you after I call SiriusXM as soon as we're done.
All right. Good to be with you.
Jim Miller from the 0-1-13-3 Bears, SiriusXM Afternoons with Pat Kerwin. I want to thank Randy Merkin for getting us all of our guests whenever we do this. Sam Michael is my executive producer. Adam Delavitt runs the show at the Bet Rivers Podcast Network. Coming up in a future podcast very soon, 2 things I'm very excited about. And, God, these are only the things that Merkin has told me about. Tim Brown, the Hall of Famer, one of my favorite college football players of all time, guy I saw play a handful of times when he was in South Bend with the Irish. He's going to join me. And in October, Cade McNown, 25 years after the Bears wasted the 12th pick in the 99 draft on Cade McNown, he's going to come out of hibernation and talk about the disappointment of his career, the 3-12 record he had as a starter, 3 years and out. Looking forward to talking with Cade about his life with the Bears and much more after it, including his friendship with Scott Kahn, the actor, a.k.a. Tweeter from Varsity Blues. Tweeter drank beer because Tweeter drinks beer. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, those of you on YouTube. I'm Dan McNeil. Have a great weekend.